In 2016, I was still with NYC, National Youth Council, and I've been with the government for a while then, more than 10 years already. I was looking for another opportunity, something related to serving the local people, and I met a friend, a good friend, who used to work with me, and he actually mentioned that there was a position available in the Singapore Red Cross. And he asked me whether if I was interested to take up the position. So I actually thought about it and asked him what it was, and when he mentioned to me, it was very similar to what we used to do, we as in he and me, and I thought about it again. The only thing that was, there was a little bit of setback was the salary, because I had to take a pay cut. But then I started to weigh between the job satisfaction. When I heard what he said, I thought that this would be something very interesting, something very similar to what I do, and something that I can really contribute to a lot. And therefore, I decided to give it a go. And when I met the Director of Services and the Secretary General two different times, I decided that this was it. This was the job that I wanted to give it a go, give it a shot, and therefore, I decided to take that challenge. And in 25th August 2016, I moved to Singapore Red Cross. And I've never looked back. Since I moved to Singapore Red Cross, I've never looked back. I've enjoyed my job thoroughly. I've got a very good team. I think that for me, right, after working for so many years in the workforce, I have come to realize that the number one thing in any work that you look for is satisfaction, job satisfaction. I think that to me is more important than salary. We need the salary. There's no doubt about it. But to me, if you're not satisfied with your job, you will never be able to sustain it. And therefore, I must say for the first time in my career that this is something that I've been enjoying thoroughly. For the last it's coming to almost 3 years now. And when you wake up in the morning and you leave for work happily, that's when you know that's the job for you. And that's how I have been every day since I joined Red Cross. And I'm very grateful, to the organization and to all my colleagues who've been with me. I lead a team of enthusiastic and committed individuals. We all share the same interests, and that is to serve the local community. So what's my job scope like? So it's really about looking into the various local services that Singapore Red Cross provide for our low income and vulnerable community. So we have different services. So we have like the Elder Aid, which is a befriending program, the Food Aid, which we have expanded to the Family Life Aid program. And then we have the Community First Aid, which we run weekly at parks. And then we have the Transport Aid, which we provide transport services to and fro for our clients Monday to Friday. And finally, we have this program called the Health Aid, and it's a new program. Maybe I would like to share a little bit more about this Health Aid, as it's one of our new services that started last year. Right, so Health Aid, right, it comprises of two components. We have the Home Plus and the Child. Let me elaborate a little bit more about these two. So Home Plus is really the home monitoring and elder care services. So what do we do with this program, right? Okay, so really if we talk about home monitoring, right, it's not something new in Singapore. I think it's been like more than 10 years, right? Home monitoring has been around by various organizations. They have provided these services. Now, what is so unique about Home Plus with Singapore Red Cross, right? It's that what we do is actually we don't just monitor our clients using our motion sensors and the panic button in their homes, but we also provide response. All right. So let me just touch a little bit on this, right? So in the past, right, you will find that a lot of these organizations, right, they have done well with Home Plus in the sense that they provide home monitoring and all that. The one thing that they do not do so well is that when it comes to responding late nights, they will find that their volunteers will not respond because they have overslept or for various other reasons, maybe be it location, staying too far away from the clients and all that. So we studied this very carefully. We did some research, we studied it very carefully, and when we decided to launch our Home Plus, we ensured and we found that the most important thing about Home Plus is really about the response. That's where clients really need that, and Murphy's Law, it always happens after office hour. All right. So what is special about Home Plus, right? So we have these the motion sensors in the elderly home. So we serve all these vulnerable elderly, who majority of them are 65 and above, and they live alone, right? So they need this help, they need this support. So we work with a vendor, right, to fix these motion sensors in their homes, okay, and at strategic places in their homes, and also provide them with a panic button. So when there's something happens to them, right, they can always press this button. All right, that will trigger the vendor's call center, and then the call center will find out what's wrong, and then they will inform our responders. Okay, so we have a group of responders. We have already about 70 of them now. Okay, they're all volunteers, and including some of our staff also. All right, we are on the roster for 24 hours a day. All right, we have 3 different shifts, and when there is a case or anything that happens with a client, and when he or she presses the button, right, our call center will pick up the call, will answer, will find out the situation, and if there is a need, we'll call our responders. 2 in a pair will go down and see what they can do for the client, and we will only do first aid. If anything that we need to escalate further, then we will inform SCDF. And I must say, this has been very successful. All right, we started this last year June in 2017, where we launched it in Jurong Spring, and it has been very successful till today. We have got a number of clients who have triggered the alarm in the wee hours of the morning, and till today we have not even had one case where we did not attend. Every time when the alarm was triggered, we always had our volunteers on standby to go down, those who have been rostered, to go down and check the situation. So that's how I can say that our Home Plus, I'm very proud to say that our Home Plus has been very successful. Furthermore, we also provide social calls. So sometimes if the elderly who is at home alone and feeling very bored, or feeling depressed, because being alone at home sometimes can cause such situations, right? So when the elderly is feeling in that kind of mood, right, they actually can call our call center, and then what our call center will do is they will pick up the call. Either they will manage the situation, or they will inform our responders, who will then go down as befrienders, to talk to the elderly and to just cheer them up a bit. So that's how successful our Home Plus has been since last year June, and we hope to continue this wonderful effort and very meaningful effort, because it is important for us to serve these elderly, especially our isolated elderly, as the number of elderly is going to increase 2 to 3 times by the year 2030. So that's Home Plus for you. And then we have this program called CHOW, which is really the Community Health on Wheels. This program was also launched in 2018, but in July, in Tampines West Community Club. Right. How does this program works, right? Okay, so we have this vehicle that was sponsored to us by SMRT. All right, so we retrofit and equip the vehicle in such a way that it can help us to perform ancillary services, all right, for the community. So what do I mean by that, right? So we work with grassroots organizations, we work really with the community, with social service organizations, and we also work, recently we've also started working with the Migrant Center and the domestic care services also. Now, how do we go about is that when we latched along with one of their programs, their events, and then we will set up our Community Health on Wheels services, right, in this program, in the community, and this program is provided free for our elderly and for the vulnerable community, right? So what do we provide? We really do an health check. So really a health assessment. A lot of these elderly, right, they generally feel that they have a lot of these problems, but if they go and see a doctor or specialist, it's going to be very costly. So they're not too sure how to go about. So when they come to this program, right, we normally work with organizations, and these organizations will help us market the program, right, for a specific day. And so when the elderly or when the participants or audience come down for this program, when they for the event, and when they see us there, all right, then we will bring them, and we will what do you call that? Interview them first, okay, to find out what is the problems, and then register them, and then we will send them for the necessary services that is needed for them. So what are the services that we have as ancillary services? We have social workers, all right, on the ground. We have nurses, you know, who do simple health checks, you know, like blood pressure monitoring and such. Then we also have our therapists, you know, like physiotherapists, you know, occupational therapists, who do very simple checks for you, whether in terms of your mobility and all that. And we don't stop there. After that, right, what we do is we put up reports, and we will, once we write the reports, we take it down and we send it to the nearby clinic or to the doctors to inform them that this is what we have found out, and for them to follow up. So that's what we do. And our team here actually, after a few weeks after the program, will actually call these clients to check whether they have gone for their checkups and all that. So that's how we go about for Community Health on Wheels. The reason why Home Plus and Community Health on Wheels, my opinion, has been very successful is really because, not just because of my team, but it's also because of a very committed and dedicated pool of volunteers. I really, at this point of time, must share a little bit about them. All right. This group of people is what I call the professional networks that we have formed together with our Home Plus and our Community Health on Wheels. This group of people are actually they're professionals. They are from the nurses. They are from the nursing background, from the therapy background. You know, so they are during the day they work as either professional nurses, or they are therapists, whether it's occupational therapies or physiotherapies or any other therapies. And when we recruit them, we share with them the program, they are very happy to join us. And I must say that this group of people are very, very committed. You know, whenever we call them, they will always be there. In fact, sometimes we have an increased number of people signing up for a particular program. That's how committed these people have been. And really, without them, you know, we won't be so successful, because a lot of us in Red Cross, we are not clinical people. You know, we don't have that speciality. You know, so we are not specialized in that kind of jobs. So we really rely on this group of people, and I really want to thank this group of volunteers. Really, they have made it so easy for all of us whenever we need them. May it be being a community responder, or may it be for the weekends that they burn to come and help in our Community Health on Wheels. Mind you that they are, you know, already going through a lot, you know, when they do their professional work during the day, but they really put in a lot of effort to come and help us together with Red Cross to join and serve these vulnerable people. That's how committed this group of people is. And together with all my other programs, you know, really not just Singapore, not just Community Resilience, which is my department, but the entire Singapore Red Cross, we really rely and depend on volunteers. Volunteers are our backbone, and they have been exceptional. Our volunteers have done a wonderful job for many years, and they are continuing to do that. May it be our youth volunteer or our senior volunteers, or any volunteer, you know, who have served us really well. They've been very committed. They have done a lot for our program. Some of them have also been empowered to take on leadership roles, and they have done a wonderful job for us. And I really want to take this opportunity to thank them so much, you know, for serving the vulnerable community together with us, because we will never be able to do this on our own. And one last point before I end off, I also want to take this opportunity to thank my team. As I said earlier in the beginning, I have a wonderful team. You know, they spend a lot of time, a lot of hours after office hours, during weekends. They are out there working together with the volunteers to serve these local people. All of them are very passionate. Like I said, we all have the same interests, and therefore that's why they're all doing this job. it's really, at the end of the day, it's not really about just the money. The money is something we all need, but it's really about your heart. It's really about serving the people with good intentions and wholeheartedly. And therefore, thank you so much to my team and to all my colleagues from Singapore Red Cross. Thank you. So there's just a few more things that I wanted to share, and one very particular service that is actually very close to my heart. Actually, when I first came to Singapore Red Cross, that was the service that I really wanted to look at and make some changes, and that's our food aid service or program. So what happened was that in Singapore, right? If you look at a lot of organizations, even the government provide food programs of food for low-income people, vulnerable people. And when I came to Singapore Red Cross, right, when I realized that we provide NTUC vouchers for our vulnerable community or our group of families, I thought, well, that's good, that's not too bad, but is there something more that we can do? So there were two changes that I made. One was I challenged the team to actually get volunteers to go and engage these families, not just by providing them vouchers, but also to bring them and shop with them so that they can provide more or purchase more nutritious food. Number two is to actually really get to know the families and to then find out what other problems they are facing. All right. So after 1.5 years, right, the team came back to me and told me that actually the family has multiple problems, which was really no surprise to me because I've seen that a lot on the ground when I was working in different social service organizations. And therefore we decided, right, collectively as a team, that we will start looking at working with children, because our role, we really work a lot with elderly, and therefore we wanted to do something a bit more for the community, as a Red Cross, and therefore we decided to expand our food aid program to families as a whole, and therefore we call it Family Life Aid Program. So what is this about, right? So we really actually started programs for children. So we look at for children as young as 4 years old, to provide them with reading programs, reading skills, and then even some volunteers are so committed and kind, to even provide them with tuition. This is for the more for the upper primary, so P3 to P6 kids. Really, you see, at the end of the day, right, it's like a vicious cycle. When you don't serve, when we for years, we've been helping these families, right? But you will see very little, change. And honestly, why? Because it's a vicious cycle. If you go down the ground, right, you will see that the young children, because they don't get help, right, they will eventually grow up to become like their parents, and therefore the cycle will just go on and on. And all these children I'm talking about are families or children who come from families that are incarcerated, skip generation. That means grandparents looking after children. So some of these families that we have gone to, they have, honestly, they have so many children, 5-6 children in a family. In fact, recently there was 7 kids and grandparents looking after them. Why? Because parents are in prison. So aged elderly grandparents looking after the children, don't know how to take care of them because don't know what policies are there now in the country, don't know how to convince these people to go to school because their ages are from 4 years old, the youngest being 4 years and the oldest being 21, right? No control over them. And these are people, right, that Singapore Red Cross, we are always looking out to serve, because some of them really fall through the cracks. Some of them really don't know how to ask for help or don't know where to look for help, all right? And if you're an aged person, a grandparent, you're really not sure where to go and ask for help. And we sometimes come to know this through other social workers from other organizations, or sometimes through word of mouth. Sometimes the public tell us, or sometimes friends, of theirs tell us. So we met families like that, and so what really, how do we help them, right? So how do we really intervene and get help for them? So we do what we can do, right? And what we do best is we can provide volunteers who can serve these people with the services that we have. So we have reading program, we have tuition. To break the vicious cycle, I always believe that a child needs to be educated. They have to have some form of education. You will be surprised and will be shocked when you go to homes of this, which we have been, where children at the age of 8, 9 years old cannot read. Now, if you can't read, how are you going to sit for your exams? How are you going to pass, right? So, the basic, most fundamental and basic thing, the basic need for a kid is to be able to read. So, food is one thing, right? But you also need to study, right? You need to have some form of education. So, we provide them with that platform. So, by providing volunteers who can read to them, and then for them to start performing better at school, that will build their confidence. Now, when that builds their confidence, right, naturally their values will also grow. All right, the interest to do better in school will automatically arise in a child, and that is what in Red Cross, right, we are trying to do. We want to break this vicious cycle once and for all, and that's why we're putting a lot of efforts. In a family, you will have multiple, if you go to these kind of families, right, you'll have multiple problems. So children will have problems not being able to do well in school, depressed because there are a lot of problems in the family, right? But what about parents? They also have a lot of health problems. Grandparents have a lot of health problems. So when we go to this home, what we try to do is we try to provide them with holistic help. So therefore we look at all the services that we have, and we look at their needs and we try to match them. And for those families, right, we feel that they need extra help and that we cannot provide this help, then we will link them to the various family service centers or the social service organizations. At the end of the day, right, we will always ensure that we do not leave anyone behind. We will definitely either help them or we will link them up to another social service organization. So that's what we've been doing. Okay, so we have gone to homes, to families, to look out for these kind of kids, and we have really served them. See, at the end of the day, right, you have to put a smile on every child's face, and that's what we're trying to do.